everybody. I've got another very special guest for you, a returning special guest. Everybody, welcome back to the show, Mark Maia. Welcome, Mark.
Hey,
How's it going, man?
going good. It's been busy, but doing the comic book's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had you on for the first Kickstarter campaign for So-Called Living, which was the first two issues, which I got to
Correct. Yeah.
read and really enjoyed.
Oh, thank you.
And now you're back
Yeah.
because issues 3 and 4 are currently on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So, for the uninitiated, maybe people missed the last interview. What is this book? What is it all about?
So I'll give you the quick pitch. Give you a little rundown. So, So-Called Living is a different kind of vampire story, and it takes place in a world where the extraordinary is ordinary. All the monsters you know from movies all exist in this environment, and it's an environment like ours. It's not an apocalyptic future. It's not like a haunted world or anything. It's just like me and you. You could be sitting on the bus next to a werewolf and a vampire is driving it, and you maybe not because they can't work in the day, but everybody knows that everybody's this, and we're okay with it. Like all these monsters would be the equivalent to like different races,
Mhm.
and like that's what it's like. It's very open, and the first book is basically establishes Jack's story, or it's Jack's origin story, and Jack is a what I call a normie. He's one of us. He doesn't have any special powers, and then he gets bit. He gets turned into a vampire. Then he starts learning to deal with this all these new problems he has, which is like the first one, he can't get into his apartment because he has to be invited in. There's no vampires allowed. Then he calls on his friends. His friends are idiots and they're trying to help him out. He walks into the sun, he catches on fire. These are like stupid little things at the beginning. So it's a lot of comedy in the beginning in the first two books. And then we establish what his new life is. And in books 3 and 4, we start laying down the groundwork for a bigger story. So one of the things that happened in book 2 was Jack got the attention of the mob, and these guys are just big nasties, and they want to get their hands on this new baby vampire. And Jack has no idea. So while he's trying to like adapt his new way of living, he's got the mob chasing him, and he has no idea. So they're looking for him. He's trying to just live his life. So, and that does continue into books 3 and 4, but they start getting closer. And then when you get to book 4, it's the most action you've seen so far. So it picks up. The tension starts to pick up from books 3 and 4. And book 4 really like just jumps up there. And there's actually in on the Kickstarter page, there's 3 pages. That's a sample of book 3, and that's of like the mobsters in the limo, and it's like the big boss, Mr. DeLuca, and he's like chatting with Rico, his right hand man, and they're talking about like, why am I driving up and down the streets looking for trying to get a taste of Nikki's table scraps. And what he means is the Nikki he's referring to is Nick, who is the big vampire from the first book that turned Jack into a vampire. And I've been hinting for a while I've been hinting through these books that there is a relationship between Mr. DeLuca and Nikki, and Mr. DeLuca does not like. Well, he calls him Nikki. Nobody else does. So Mr. DeLuca and Nick. So there's like a relationship between there. It's tense, and Mr. DeLuca is very interested that this baby vampire is specifically made by Nick. So you find out why as you continue reading. So, and that conversation in the book is just like, he's just frustrated. Like, why am I looking for this? Why are we having such a hard time finding this vampire? And you guys sit right hand man trying to calm him down, and Mr. Luke is just pissed. So that kind of gives you a rundown of what this world is like. And then there's also a bunny underlying storyline, which actually you can see the strip.
Mm-hmm.
There's this underlying bunny story that's kind of happening in the background. It hasn't played a major part yet. It did some shit went down in book 2,
Yep.
but their story is kind of happening in the background, and then all Jack stuff and the mob stuff is happening here. But eventually, these stories they'll collide. So yeah, the bunnies are a force of nature, and I like the idea that in a world full of monsters, everybody's more afraid of the bunnies than anything else. So, like, nobody concerns themselves with that. There's a vampire right here, or a werewolf over there. Nobody, or zombies are breaking out. Everybody's fine with that. But when it comes to bunnies, like, whoa. Like,
So I'll back off.
back up. Back it up. So yeah, so I think that's a good rundown of the story. And yeah, and the Kickstarter,
Yeah.
like you said, I was on your show earlier. That was for March. Like I'm running two Kickstarter. I've never run a Kickstarter before, and I'm running two in 1 year. So it's so I have one in March, and now I have one in October, and it runs to the end of October for books 3 and 4. And the idea is by next year I should have another two Kickstarters, and that should finish. So it doesn't end so-called living. It's not like the world's going to just erupt and be wiped off the face of the planet. Like the
Hmm.
story will continue, not necessarily with all the characters. I don't make any promises that all the characters will make it through. Um, but there are also new characters that were introduced in books 3 and 4, and there's some characters that will play a major part. And coming forward, there'll be more characters introduced. When we get to the next Kickstarter, I'm going to start introducing characters that are going to, like, you'll meet them, but they won't play a major part necessarily. They'll have like cameos, setting them up for future stories, which I already have laid out.
So
So
if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a minute since I read the book, but I remember the bunnies. The main character wakes up after being bitten and not knowing what's going on, and we see the bunnies and they're all cute and cuddly, and then they're not.
okay, yeah, because the bunnies always look innocent. You never see them doing anything in that book. Yeah, you said yeah, he woke up and there's a bunch of bunnies and he's surrounded by bunnies. He looks terrified, but the
Yeah.
bunnies aren't like growling at him or anything. They're just like sitting there. I think there's one in the background. He's like sniffing like, and then yeah, he finds his finger, right?
Yes, that's what it was, and he freaks out.
Yeah, because his finger's missing. All of a sudden, there's like a bunny on a box, and his finger's sitting beside the box, and he fell asleep. There was no bunnies. And he woke up, he's surrounded by bunnies, and his finger's missing. It's beside a bunny, so he freaks out. And granted, if you woke up and and there was your finger was missing, you'd probably be like, "What the fuck?"
I'd have some questions.
Yeah, and yeah, and then that's the beginning of book 2, and it's there's an interesting part where he's got to make a decision whether it's like, as a vampire, obviously the sun is dangerous. So he's like, do I stay in the dark alley where the sun's not going to get me, or do I go out into the? But the bunnies are there, so he's like, do I stay with the bunnies or do I go out to the sunny street? And that's like a choice he has to make in book 2. So I don't come outright. I never outright come and explain the bunnies, but by the reactions of the people, like in the first issue, there's mention of bunnies on the TV, but it's news that's happening somewhere else. He's not concerned. But when he wakes up, yeah, in book 2, and he's surrounded by them, now it's his problem. And now that it's his problem, he's freaked the fuck out. So and then so he tries to get away from them as fast as possible. But you don't know why. You're like, why is this guy so afraid of bunnies? Like, what's so bad? Obviously, his finger's missing. Did they do that?
Hmm.
Are they responsible for that? Were they drawn to the finger? Did they take off the finger? What? Like, so there's a lot of questions like, what's with the bunnies? And that's what I want people to be asking: is what's with the bunnies? So
Yeah, you want a little mystery
yeah,
hanging out there.
and because again, it's not the main story. The bunnies aren't the main story. They are, but they are a major thing in this world, although they are not what we're focused on, right?
Yeah.
So think of them as a force of nature. Bunnies are a force of nature in this world.
Yeah, what I liked about those first two issues were you playing with the tropes of being a vampire and like how that affects being in the real world and all the things you mentioned. And I just found them, even though I had heard you explain them, reading them was so funny just in how it was executed and everything. And you say that in 3 and 4, we're going for more broader story and all this. Are you keeping the comedic nature
Yeah,
of the book
yeah.
intact with that?
The dark humor is always going to be there. And what I'm trying to do is like when you read Jack and Tim, who's his friend, and Marvin. There's like three guy friends,
Mm-hmm.
but it's mostly Jack and Tim together. They're the comedy, right? They're like the
Yeah.
cast of Friends. They're like jabbing off each other, making jokes. They're making smart ass comments. They don't, even if they something's bad, they don't necessarily take it seriously. They'll be like, "Yeah, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it." But so it's all comedic when it comes to them. So when you're reading the book, it very much seems like a sitcom. You're reading a sitcom. But then when we switch over, and you get that in book 2, where it cuts away to what the mob is doing, and Mr. DeLuca is on a phone call, and right away that panel is tense.
Mm-hmm.
They're introduced, and they're like, he's yelling at some guy on the phone, and he's like, "It's gonna be your fucking bag, your teeth in this fucking baggie." Blah blah blah. Like he's angry, smashes the phone, and then his right hand man, he starts to calm down. Dusts the damage of the phone off his hands. So, and it seems like that establishes like they're intense people. So even in upcoming books, there's more pages of them. And even if you read the 3 that are there, they're intense. They're not jokey.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like the yang to the other guy's yin, or right, vice versa. So where the other guys are all jokey, these guys are very serious. That's why I've made the comparison before. It's kind of like, what if the cast of Friends was being hunted down by the cast of Sopranos? Very two different feelings, and they're coming together. So when you're reading the Mob, yeah, it feels very much like you're reading a serious, like an intense thing. But then you jump over a few panels, and it's Jack. It's kind of kooky. And then when you mix them together, you have this interesting thing of where it's like these serious people taking on these guys, and they're still a little goofball, but the Mob guys never break their serious tone. They're like, you guys are idiots. We're gonna kill you. It's like that mentality. Not that they actually say that or that actually happens, but that's their stance. So like, imagine Chandler coming up to Tony Soprano when he's freaking out, and that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Those two would clash. And then in the middle, you have like uh, Nick and Casper, who they're kind of like the Sons of Anarchy. Like they're badasses. They're not necessarily funny, but they're not overly. They don't take themselves overly serious. They're kind of like good old boys, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
walking around, they're just loving life. They like getting into a nice bar fight every once in a while, and they're like, "That was a good one. That was a good one." Like, that's how they are. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they're also not jokers. They're not fools like Jack and Tim. So they kind of run the middle ground. So you have like, Jack and Tim, get them all on the side, and down the middle you have Nick and Casper. So yeah, definitely keep the humor. The humor is going to be throughout, but the inclusion of the Mob guys will increase the intensity.
That's good to hear, because for me, that's the draw of the book. Like you said, the sitcom humor. And you went to Friends. I'm a Seinfeld guy, so I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
Seinfeld. Jack's like George Costanza to me. Like, he's the
yeah,
guy always screwing up in somewhere, doing something wrong. Even though I wouldn't say George has the best intentions, but even though Jack has the best intentions, like,
yeah. And Seinfeld,
yeah,
yeah, Seinfeld's also a good fit.
yeah,
Any of those like buddy sitcoms, you know what I mean, where they're just riffing
yeah,
off each other, and I try to build a good connection with them. I want them to seem like friends, and I want them to know that they know each other. So when they talk, I want them to feel like, oh, these guys have known each other for a long time, so they can mock each other and not take each other too seriously, not get offended, right? Because like your best friends, you can tell them to fuck off, and they'll be okay.
oh yeah, yeah.
You just like
That's
fuck off, loser, you'll be fine.
so I would say, like, if you're my friend and I'm not picking on you, like, you probably need to ask some questions about our friendship. Like, that comes with the territory.
Actually, it was funny that you say that. I had uh, one incident where I turned to somebody and I made some smart ass comment. This was years ago, and they were kind of like they didn't know how to take it. They thought I was being serious, and I had the one guy, which is funny. He's a buddy of mine. He turned to him and he said, "If he's mocking you, that means he likes you." and I'm like, "Oh," and I was like, "I actually never even thought of that. Like, I never thought of it
That's,
that way." But it was funny. I was like, "That's true. Right? It's like because I feel more comfortable with you, and I don't want you to take things seriously. Because I don't take things seriously unless they need to
no,
be taken seriously, right? Like I'm okay. You wanna call me whatever you want. That's fine. It's just to give. It's a give and take.
that's, dude. I told you before recording, I was playing D&D last night, and my buddy Jeff is in the group with us, and he's in a metal band. He's a metal drummer. Like, he has long hair. He's that type of dude. And he made some comment to me about my hair because I just got my hair cut. And he goes, "Oh, you couldn't grow your hair long or something." And I just looked at him and I just go, "Yeah, because I'm a man." And everybody in the group stops because we're all friends, but like, me and Jeff are very close. And everybody in the group stops and is just like, "Oh my God, like, what did he just say to him?" And Jeff just goes, "Oh, anybody else, I'd punch him in the face, but it's Chris, so whatever." Like,
It's funny because like I do have friends that we joke around, but if somebody else said that to them, they
yeah,
like lay them out.
yeah,
But it's funny because like I have like big, strong, like tough friends, and if some guy that he just met said even like a fraction of the things I say to him, he'd lay him out in a second.
oh yeah,
But it's funny. So it's funny when other people see me and him together because I'm not the biggest guy. I'm like 5'7.5", right? And like I got friends that are like 6 something. They're the big guys, and it's funny when you see us in public and we're just mocking each other. People are like seeing this little guy just mock these giants, and we're just laughing, having a good time. You're like, wow, you're playing with the lions. You should wrap yourself in meat. But it's fun.
But
Well, that's the best kind of friends. It's like you need to have friends that you can
yeah,
just look
friends that
into.
take you down a peg once in a while, and just
Yeah.
make sure that ego stays in check.
And I appreciate a good takedown.
Yeah.
I tend to be a little faster when it comes to like the jabs than some of the people I hang out with, right? Like if my friends when I'm talking to them,
Mhm.
I tend to be a little quicker with the smart ass comments. But every once in a while they get a good one in there, and then they're high fiving each other, and I was like, I respect that. I respect that because like, I've been laying into you guys for years, and you guys got a good one in there. I was like, okay, all right, that's good.
I grew up with it too. Like my father's that way
Yeah,
with
my mom
everybody.
is like that.
And I'll never forget this. And it's an ex-girlfriend now, but I brought a girlfriend over and it was the first time meeting my parents. I remember giving her a whole speech like, my dad, he likes to pick on people. That's just how he is. That's how he shows love, blah blah blah. And we're sitting down for dinner and my whole family's there. And my dad just turns over to her and goes, "So is he any good in bed?" And she goes, "Meh." And he dies laughing and he just looks at me and goes, "I like her."
It's funny because like the relationships are interesting because my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, she's she's super sweet and very like friendly and outgoing and very helpful. And when I don't think which is weird because her son is probably just as bad as I am. But and we mock he's a cop now, so like and we mock each other all the time. Like I'm always making jokes about how can make it as a firefighter or whatever. No, just just those things to irk him, and then I don't mean it seriously, and he knows I don't, right? But
Yeah.
anybody else, take offense. But she is very so like sometimes I make comments, and I think she takes it seriously because but not my mom. If I went too far and I told her something, make jokes, she'd say shut up, or she'd say something right back. But she speaks in Portuguese; she doesn't speak English, so our smack is in like a different language. So my
Hmm.
wife can't; she doesn't know what's happening when we're doing that. But I told her I was like when I met my wife, and it took a while to get used to my personality. And then she met my mom, and she's like, I see where you get it from. Because that's how my mom is. And I tried to tell her this once where, my mom is like, because she's old school European. She believes in God, but she's not a big churchgoer. She's religious, but she's not going to church.
Hmm.
So
My
that
parents are the same way.
she was like, I'm religious, but I was like, I don't need to go to church and have some guy tell me how to worship. That's her. That's her stance. She's like, I don't want to need to waste my afternoon and have some guy read out a book to me. I was like, I'm good.
My father always tells me that because if you walk around his house, like there's pictures of Jesus around everything, like
Yeah,
he's
my
a
mom
religious
too.
man. But growing up in the 60s and 70s, being somebody who was into rock and roll, had long hair and all that, he was kicked out of churches left and right. And so he just had a bad attitude about it, but never lost his faith through it.
Yeah.
It's the strangest thing to me, but it's
It's funny. My mom has her faith, but she picks and chooses the best parts for her, right?
mhm.
And she doesn't get too caught up in the weeds. So
Best kind of Christian, best kind.
but my wife, they used to go to church every Sunday or whatever, and she started dating me. She's like, yeah, we're gonna go to church for this and that. I was like, no, I'm not going. I told her why. I was like, my mom didn't take me, so I'm not gonna start going with you. You can go. I don't care. I'll stay
Hmm.
home. And but then she just ended up not going. I was like, I never told her not to go, but she's like, maybe you have a good reason. So I was like confronting her not to go. But anyways, she for Lent, and she was like, I'm gonna give up sweets. I was like, what? Why? And she's like, what are you giving up for Lent? I was like, nothing. She's like, well, you should. I was like, all right, meth. She's like, but you don't do meth, and I will continue not to do meth.
Keep that
I give
streak
her,
going.
yeah, I'm gonna keep that streak going. So, and I was like, you're not gonna be able to do this. And she's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, look, a day and a half, and she wants sweets. She's eating something. I was like, what is that? And she was like, I said chocolates. I'm not gonna give chocolate. I was like, that's not what you said. But okay, let's change it up. Let's adapt your Lent promise. You're not gonna eat chocolate. Okay, no problem. So we go for my mom's birthday in Toronto, and my mom just likes going to Red Lobster. That's all she wants, and it's funny because she was like a seafood chef, but so she wrote because of that. My sisters, I think part of that is my sisters never wanted to go to Red Lobster. They would like to go to nice seafood restaurants. But my mom likes Red Lobster. She likes the biscuits, and she's simple, and so it's funny. She likes it. So no, but my sisters won't take her. So I was like, I'll take her for her birthday when I'm in Toronto. My sisters are in Toronto with her.
Hmm.
So, but they don't take her. they'll take her somewhere else. So I took her to Red Lobster. My wife was there, and it was during this Lent thing, and they bring out the birthday cake. It's a slab of chocolate cake, and they're like, "Ta-da! Three spoons for everybody to share." My wife is very tiny frame, right? So this is important to the story because my mother offers her the cake, and and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, "Are you gonna take it? Like, what are you gonna do?" And I'm always like, no, it's for Lent. I can't. She's like, what? She's like, yeah, take the cake. She's like, no, it's for Lent. And she can't say it in Portuguese. I actually didn't even know what the word was for Portuguese because I like in Portuguese because we never used that word at home.
Hmm.
And she's like, why? Where are you going to get fat? And she's like, no. Should I explain to her? So I explained to her as best I could. And she got she's like, oh. And I was like, yeah, she's giving chocolate up for Lent. And she looks at me, looks at my wife, looks at me, laughs. She's like, just eat the fucking cake. So that was, I thought that was hilarious. And then she's like, fine, eats the cake. And I told her, I was like, now, see, you're right. That is where I get it from. But that was hilarious. It's just two very different moms.
Yeah.
And it's not that one's better. There's a benefit for each of them because I can tell you when I have it hard, sometimes it's nice to have somebody that's supportive and brings you something to make you feel better. My mom would be like, "Oh, come on, just get over it. What are you gonna do?" Sometimes people are assholes, so it's like that. Sometimes it's good to have both sides.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. In my family, you've got my dad's side, which I take after 100%, which is the German side, and they're just like nose to the ground, hardworking people. Like came over here, made a life, very like blunt about everything.
Yeah,
And then you got my mom's side, which is Italian, and they're all very Catholic, very like structured and everything, but it's much more loose and like caring and just more outwardly caring, I should
yeah,
say. It's just completely different worlds when you go to the different sides of the family. So yeah, I know what you mean. It's nice to have both. I even have that within my parents. Like my mom's very much
yeah,
caregiver. My dad's very much like, I'll rub dirt on. Let's get back to work.
yeah. Pretty
But
much my only really interactions with my mom. My dad was like he was there. He was always at the house.
mhm.
Being an old school European dad is the mom's job to take care of me. And I felt like if he ever had to take care of me when I was younger, it was a nuisance for him. So like I remember he had to take me for a day, he took me to the movies, and the whole time I think he just hated it. He's like, let's just get this over with. Like that's what it felt like. So I was like, okay. So we were never really that close.
I just strange because my dad was like, and we're talking. I was born late '80s, so '90s, 2000s,
Yeah,
and he was referred to as Mr. Mom. Like he was, he was that guy. But at the same time, he was very like much a guy. Like
yeah.
never. I've never seen my father cry and those kinds of things. Like not things that I'm bragging about. They're not positive things, but just typical guy behavior.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And at the same time, like he was the one around. He was the one like making dinner for us and everything. Because my mom was the one who had the job that worked long hours and all that stuff.
And
It's
me
a very unique perspective I got growing up for the sexes. So
me and my wife is very different. We just like we just pick up what the other one like if I'm doing this or writing the comic book or putting together the Kickstarter page,
hmm
she'll be taking care of our son,
hmm
or if some emails need to get done, or she needs to do a bunch of things on the paper trail of this, and so then I'll take care of our son, or I'll make dinner, or she'll make dinner. Like it's never been like this is your role. You make dinner, you take out the trash, you do this. It's like whoever does it, right? Just go.
much
But
healthier.
just get it done.
Yes.
Right? Like it doesn't matter. It needs to get done. Like recently, she's been making a lot more of the dinners for months because I've been working on the comic book and I've been, putting the Kickstarter page together, working on the YouTube channel. I have like had two contracts going for my day job, and it was just I was just working all the time. I was always here working, and so she would come home, make the dinner. I'd go up, spend some time with them while I eat dinner, and then come back downstairs and work. I'd basically wake up at 7. I'd get the kid ready. She would go up because I work at home. She worked at the office, so I'd get the kid ready. I'd feed him. I'd dress him. She would take him to daycare on her way to work, and then she would work all day. I'd work all day here. If I had some time, then I'd prep some stuff for dinner. But then she'd come home. She'd make dinner. Kid would play by himself. I stay down here, go up there. So, but if I'm free, then I go up and make dinner, and I like to have it done for them. Or
Hmm.
it's so we just jump back and forth. There's no like set roles,
Yeah. That's
which
always how I treated things too. Like, just pick up the slack, and like, it doesn't have to be work related either. Like, I suffer from depression, and I just have days where it's just not like I'm not there, and trying to like navigate that. And everybody has their thing, like something that drags them down in some way, and just trying to navigate those things.
and I get it. Like
Yeah.
when working on the we'll use the book as an example. When working on the book, like I get down on myself for like, is it even getting noticed? Or people noticing it? Because like people, do they like it? Is the Kickstarter going to be successful? How do I get more people to see this? How do and like am I just because I haven't made any money on the book yet? It's been it's been selling. Like when
Hmm.
I go to cons, I do actually well at cons. The book does well at cons, so it's been, and I've had people come to the table that's like, "Oh, my friend bought these; he really likes them, so I came to buy my own copies," and that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
It's great when like anybody buys your book. That's awesome. But when they send their friends back because they're like, "This book is so good, you got to go buy it," and they come back and buy it. Like last con was that two guys came to the table. One of them bought the standard covers, and they both walked away. And then an hour later, the other guy comes back and he's like, "I'll buy the elite covers." So because his friend read it and liked it and told him you should go back, so he went back and bought them, even though he could have just read his buddies. So he just
Yeah.
wanted to have them. So I thought that was cool, and so that's always a compliment. But anyways, those are good things. But there's so many negative moments. Like when you're working, and this is a note to anybody who's like making a comic book, it can get so stressful.
Making anything.
Making anything and
Yeah.
finishing it, like it's a lot of work. You gotta tell yourself. Like I've had people that want to start projects with me, and they're like, "Oh, let's do this." I was like, do you understand the commitment is? Like, no. It's not just like you got to be ready to like not work it into the gaps of your life. Like aside from the things you need to do, take care of your kids, work, eat.
Hmm.
You need to knock out like it's not movie night every night. It's not video games every night. It's not like sit down watch your TV. Like you got to give up your TV. You got to give up those movie nights. You got to give up the video game days. You got to give up so much stuff if you want to get your dreams. Like you gotta you gotta run through the shit first, right? Before you get to the beach. It's crazy how much work and it can get you down. And you say about like getting depressed, and sometimes like I get so down on myself, and I need my wife to like help me out, like to get me out of it. But it's easy to spiral,
Yeah.
no matter what somebody says, right? It's just like everything they say, I was like, I can't take it seriously because it's like you're just saying it to be nice. I feel like in the back of my head, you're like, you're just saying this to calm me down. And that triggers me even more, and it's just like it's a spiral, and I don't know how to get out. Right?
Yeah. And
It's
the worst in terms of content for me personally, because I have the type where I can just wake up in the morning and it's done. Like there's just nothing happened, nothing triggered it. Just my brain is fucked. But I think the worst in terms of content is that like that comment, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube or on whatever, and it's just like that one person being shitty, even though you saw like the 100 or however many being nice, the one person being shitty, and it's just in the back of your head gnawing at you all day.
that's why I tried to like come at them right away, and like one guy, it wasn't necessarily a bad comment. Like I don't know if I don't. It wasn't one of the worst comments. I've had much
Hmm.
worse comments, but the last comment I read that was negative was just some guy commented on one of my unboxings, and he's said something about like some like idiot. Why would you let this guy who knows nothing about this topic unbox this game, and like he has no idea what he's talking about, and he's making quotes of things I said. And it's funny because I always start my unboxings being like, I have no idea what this is. I don't know what I'm doing. It's a Christmas. I'm going to open it up. I don't know nothing about this game. I'm just
Hmm.
going in and seeing what the pieces are. I just want to see the components. So he was just going off on how like basically I'm an idiot and I don't know anything and why am I doing this? And I was like, if you don't like it, buy the game, do your own fucking unboxing. Like I said on my channel, like fuck you. I don't have time to put up with your shit. Like I don't want any of this. And this one other guy was complaining about the way I talk, and I was like, first of all, I and I went off on him about some things. Not like I don't get argumentative. More like this is the deal. So I'm trying to be straight up. Like tell the guy if you don't like it, don't watch it. Go make your own unboxing video. But this guy, I was talking to him, and then I was like, and it kept going on, and I was like, listen, first of all, I don't care. Because then he started backing up and like, oh, I didn't mean that. And I was like, no. First of all, I don't care for your like online bullying bullshit. Like, if you don't have the, like, because you don't have the balls to like talk to me in person, you got nothing better going on in your life, you decide to try to pick me and make me feel worse. And it's like, fuck you,
Yeah.
right? It's like, and I want to teach my son that. It was like, there's going to be people that just talk shit. And like, I know everybody's not going to love the comic book, right? Now, nobody loves anything, right? No matter how fucking popular you are. Like Star Wars, amazingly popular. People shit on that all the time, right? But like at one point, Lucas just got to be, yeah, fuck it. You gotta be like, a lot of people like it,
Yeah. Well,
and
why do
that.
you think he sold it to Disney?
So it's like,
He's like, I'm done with this shit.
so it's yeah, it's interesting. Like, no matter what it is. So I think you gotta tell yourself, if somebody doesn't like your stuff, don't worry about it. There's people out there that don't, things you love that you think are masterpieces. There's people out there that hate it. They hate it, and that's fine because everybody will hate something, and people have a tendency to like not say what they like, but more people will comment on what they don't like. Because the person
Yeah.
that doesn't like things want to comment on them. It's like a personality of like, I don't have much going on, and this makes me feel powerful. It empowers me to take this person down. Right?
Yeah. Which is so
It's not.
weird to me. I
It
don't
is.
have that.
So I'm trying to like teach my like I hope when my son's old enough I can teach him that the people that are putting you down are below you anyway. They're not pushing you down, they're pulling you down because
Mhm.
they're down there already. They're just trying to bring you to their level and like don't fucking fall for it. You create what you want to create. You love it's important that you love you love yourself and love your projects and pay attention to people that are closest to you because everybody else is just noise and they're just gonna bring you down. So
Yeah.
like I create so-called living to give to people and I want people to like it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to comment. Just don't buy it. Just don't, like, just help me out. What I do ask would be great, and I'm guilty of this too. I'll read something or play something that I like. I don't comment saying I like it. I don't say thank you for the good job. Like, I don't even think about it. I was like, oh, that was good. Put it down. Whatever I played, that was excellent. My head was like, they did a good job. But I never reach out and tell them. But there's somebody in there that's like, oh, this is shit. I'm so angry. I'm just going to tell. So it's, and I've said this on my channel before, and not for me. I was like, if you have content creators out there that you like, or things, or indie people you like these are like people that don't, they're not super popular. Like, they might be more popular than
Mhm.
you, right? Because you're
Yep.
not out there, but that's not because you couldn't do that. You're not doing that. You're not in the public face. And these people need like support. They don't need it, but everybody needs it. It helps fuel you to do it, right? Because if you never get any positive feedback, whether that be a like or a sub or just the numbers of views, if you're not getting that, and you're not getting the positive comments, then it's hard. You don't have any fuel to keep you going. Because, like you said, one shitty comment is equal to 100 great comments.
Oh yeah. The best thing anyone out there, not to turn this into a therapy session, but the best thing anyone can do is a like and a share. That's it. You don't have to say anything. Just a like and a share. Because yes, it helps the algorithm and everything. But it's also just like when I turn on something or I get that notification and I see that somebody did it. And mind you, my phone is riddled with notifications at this point in my life, but it's still just like that nice feeling like, oh, somebody like actually cared enough. Because in my life, that's been something that I've actively tried to do. And we're not perfect. And I'm sure I've said like this is shit or something like that was off the cuff and probably way too harsh. But also, I've been trying very hard to leave reviews on things. Like, because I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, for instance. And when you're done with an audiobook on Audible, it actively like asks you, like, would you like to review? And I'm like, yes, I would like to review this. Like, doing things like that to try to help. I mean, I don't know if the creators are seeing that or not. I know I do on my side, but I just feel like that, if nothing else, just like, well, they can see, like, I enjoyed that book, or I enjoyed that comic, or I cared about it enough to share it, or something like that. I think those are the best for me personally. Because, yeah, it is a lot to ask to comment, like, this was great. Even though, on the other end, people love to comment, this is shit.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
but let's get back to so-called living. So, because before we went on that tangent, I was going to ask you, did you keep the creative team? So is like all the artists, the colorist, everybody is the same from the first two issues?
Yep. And Marco Leone he's getting better. Like, the art in books 3 and 4 are better than art in 1 and 2. Um, and I thought Marco did a great job. And I've got so much great feedback from like the artwork because, well, I've got more feedback from on the artwork than the writing because most of the people I see them before they read it. So it's all right because I see people when they're buying it for the first time, so they're like, "Oh, I love the artwork." I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll like the story, but you have to. It's going to be a while. It might end up on a pile somewhere until you get to it." But yeah. So I got Marco Leone doing art. I got Casby Studios doing colors. I got new cover artists because this time around for the elite covers, it's John Little. He did the yellow cover. If you see it, if you're looking at the Kickstarter, he did a yellow cover of like the martini glass and like the
Hmm.
guys are in the martini glass and the guy's drinking it. And I gave him the concept of what to do. I was like, "Hey, John, I got an idea." I was like, I drew this triangle with stick people falling out of it into like a letter C. And I was like, "That's a mouth." And like, he's drinking the drink. I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "Oh, I like that idea. I think we work with that." And he did it, and it came back. And it's very much his style. And what he came back with was like, that's exactly what I like pictured him sending me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
did a great job. It's very, and when he said what he liked, he's like, "I love it." I was like, "It's very." I don't know how to explain to others. It's like, it's very John. It's very you. I was talking to him, and I was like, "That's perfect. Exactly what I wanted." I mean that in a positive way. And then the other cover was actually me. I did it, and it was it's like a pink cover with a bunch of bunnies.
Hmm.
And so I did that because I was like, I got to do a cover. Something I had another guest, but that didn't work out. Something fell through with that. So and I was like, well, Kickstarter's going to start in a week. I need a cover, and I was like, I wanted to take more time to do a cover of mine. I thought the first time I do it, would take more time to do something a lot really detailed and a lot of color and then I was like, you know what? I don't have the time to, but at the same time, I want to do something that looks good. So I was like, let me try to put my clever hat on. And I was sitting there. I was like, I think bunnies. Bunnies. I was like, I want to do bunnies. But now, how do I want? And I was like, but I also giving myself a little task. Like, I want to do a cover that's like three colors. So it's like it's black, pink, and blue. White's the paper. You don't count white. So it's black, pink, and blue. And I was like, I just want to do solid colors. So it's kind of like old school printing. Like I can only have three colors. And I used to work with low colors where I did like Game Boy Color and stuff like that when I worked on in the video game industry. Well, when I still work, but when I used to do Game Boy Color.
Hmm.
So I was like, I want to do something like that. I want to do kind of something stylized. I want the bunnies because the bunnies kind of shout out to the Blood Bunny Colony, which are anybody who bought the keychain the first time around. They get a benefit on this Kickstarter. You either get a free upgrade from standard to elite, or from elite to Sexpot, or you get a free print and sticker set. And that's if you were a member, if you bought the keychain the first time around. So this time around, if you buy the keychain, you'll get a benefit on the next one. So everybody who bought a keychain, if you ever have a keychain, if you ever bought the keychain off the Kickstarter, I say specifically off the Kickstarter, like your keychain has to say official member of the Blood Bunny Colony, because when
Hmm.
you buy that one, your email gets added to a list. So when you back again with that email, I know to contact you and say, do you want the free upgrade? Do you want the free prints and stickers? Like what do you want? And you'll get it. And I've sent everybody who got the first keychain, like here's what your options are going to be. Keep that in mind when you choose your tier. If you want the free bump, if you want to get the elite, buy the standard, you'll get bumped to the elite. And keep that in mind. And if you don't want it, you get the print and sticker set.
Does that go
So
on for the entirety of the series?
that'll go on forever as long as there's a Kickstarter, a so-called living Kickstarter.
Oh, that's a cool benefit.
Yeah, so that's how it goes. So when you get the keychain, it'll just go on forever. And I want to keep putting out like this story is gonna, like I said, this story is gonna end. But there'll be other so-called living things that I want to do on Kickstarter.
Hmm.
So the bunny keychains carry on. If it's a so-called living thing, carry on. And I even thought of like maybe if I do a different comic book, maybe depending on how it is, I'll extend it to that too. Like maybe it's just anything that's under my brand, my writing, anything I do. Maybe I don't know. I have to think about that one, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's going to be so-called living. Anything so-called living, you'll always get a benefit of some sort. I don't write down what it is because I don't know necessarily what it's going to be. I might be able to offer something better next time, or maybe cost of everything goes to shit, and then I can't offer something better. So it's something else I can offer. So but at the minimum, you're going to get a keychain, which is a cool keychain that we make ourselves. It's like black and white acrylic. I recreated this art of the bunny, which is this. It's this bunny here, and this
Yep.
bunny was drawn by my buddy Jamie. But I found a low res version. I just recreated it in Illustrator, and I put like a bunny, like a keychain holder on the back of it. And if you flip it, it says official member of the Blood Bunny keychain. And I designed that, gave it to my wife, and she has a laser cutting machine, and she cut it. Stinks up the entire house because it's like you're burning acrylic. gross. But it looks great. It looks great. It looks pretty much exactly how it's pictured on the Kickstarter. And I say specifically from the Kickstarter because I do sell those keychains at con tables, but those keychains, if you flip them over, they say either "I'll swallow your soul" or "cute but deadly."
Okay.
So do not say official members because I'm not collecting emails when I'm at the table. So, but yeah.
That's I think I remember you talking about that last time, but that's a really cool benefit that everybody should look into. Like I mean, obviously I like the book, so it's worth backing for the book. But then to get something special just for, isn't it like a $5 keychain? Right?
$8. Well, it depends. Are you in the States? Because it's $8 Canadian, which is probably might be like $6 American.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm thinking. So I think it's $6 for us. Yeah, $8 Canadian. That's right. You got all that funny Canadian money on here.
Yeah, so
So I
all
gotta.
the Canadian dollars are there. So all the numbers, like you see the all in, so you get all the different covers and all the you get all like the different covers for 3 and 4. So it's 6 books, and you get the PDF with all the different covers, and it says $80 Canadian. But it's like $59 American.
Yeah, just not bad for 6 covers on a Kickstarter campaign.
No, that's $10 a book, and you get the PDFs, and it's decent for a Kickstarter campaign because like $10 is like a good price for a book on Kickstarter for an indie book, because like when you go to the comic book store, like because our comics here have American prices on the back, so there's a conversion. So on average, they're like anywhere from like there's some $3.99 ones, but there's not that many. Like $4.99 to $6.99, right? On the average comic book you go to the comic book store to buy. And then you add tax to that, and those are the big two. So they're taking like $7 to $8 from you after tax, and they producing a lot more than us indie people are. So because their costs are so much lower, because they're producing like hundreds. If I could produce as much of them, yeah, I could lower my cost too, right? But and I don't have the distribution, so they've got a lot of things going for them. So if an indie book can sell for $10, that is really good when you compare it to like the big two. So it's decent price.
Yeah. So we've been going for a little while, but I do want to go on one other thing because we had a fun time with it last time, and I want to like circle back around. You brought it up a little bit. Let's go with those Sexpot covers. What's up with this?
The obligatory Sexpot edition. Oh, you know what? I want to show you something.
Okay. He's going around to show us something, everybody.
It's going to be awesome.
You got to go to the YouTube to see what he's showing us. So make sure you like and subscribe there.
Benefit. So check this out. So first of all, let me tell you a story. The Sexpot, obligatory Sexpot edition. First, let me explain what this obligatory Sexpot edition is.
Yes.
And I'm happy you guys got like the first time. Like you guys were one of the first people that just got it, because it's like if you look at successful books on Kickstarter, most of them are like softcore porn, pretty much. They're sexy books,
yes.
Right? So I thought, how can I compete with these guys? The book's not sexy. There's nothing sexy about So-Called Living. There's no sexy characters in that book. So the first time around,
if I remember correctly, you had one of the covers was the waitress, who was supposed to be a plain-looking waitress, and then
So there's a plain Jane waitress, and so in book 2, it's a plain Jane waitress, blonde with a ponytail, whatever, in her waitress outfit. And but on the cover of that book, she's got like huge boobs, and she's holding the tray out, and she's all smiles with her hips out. She's like very curvy, and then on the other cover, but the girl on the cover is dressed just like the waitress is in the book. And then the other cover was like a super booby version of Jill, and Jill is not her character is very plain Jamie. She's not a curvaceous character. She's very flat, simple looking. Like all the characters are simple looking. Like there's not a lot of like Jack's not a stud either. Like nobody is, right? So, but on that cover, I was like, okay, so we'll take her outfit and we'll sexify it. So it's like she's wearing like a pink sweater and blue jeans. So the girl on the Sexpot edition is wearing like a pink crop top and like really short Daisy Duke denim shorts. But she's got the same color hair, she's got a ponytail, and she's drinking a milkshake because that was what Jill got in the comic. So the way I explain it to people, it's kind of like when you go to Comic-Con, you see somebody dressed up as like Sexy Luigi and Sexy Mario. Think of them as like cosplay versions of them. And just keep in mind, there's no nudity. It's all just, they're all clothed still.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. It was like, oh, they're kind of cosplay versions. It's just sexifying characters that are in there, like making sexy them up. Because like the cosplay girls are crazy. Like they'll take SpongeBob and they're like, what? Or that's a sexy fire hydrant. Like they get creative with their outfits. So that's what I wanted to do.
I've had some uncomfortable feelings when I saw a Mega Man
Like Stacey
cosplay one
Maynard.
time. Like, yeah, ladies, it's like, listen, I'm not gonna tell you no because I do appreciate it, but it does give me some uncomfortable feelings at times. I'm gonna admit to it.
This time around, we have the Sexpot edition again. But this time, instead of getting, we got, because I was going to get two different artists to do these covers, but instead I got one artist, Larry Twasson, because I saw him posting his work online, and I've done this before, and it has not worked out. Where I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, I'd like to do covers." He's like, "Yeah, sure, I could do a cover for you." I was like, "That's amazing." It's like, because every time I've reached out for someone, I get no answer. Like, I'm too busy. I only do stuff for Marvel and DC. You know what I mean? Like, that's like basically, I don't do your little tiny indie books. So, but but yeah, he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, I love this stuff. So the first one I did, there's a scene in book 3 where Tim is describing his apartment to Jack, and he's like, "Oh, and there's a pool." And then if you cut to a pool, and there's just a pool in his apartment. It's pretty much abandoned. It's got a bunch of zombies in the water, and they're just kind of like up to their nose in water. They're just standing in there, kind of like the zombie in the first book, where he's in the pool, just standing in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, let's do that scene, but let's have. It's like a pool full of zombies, and there's like one sexy zombie girl kind of coming out of the pool, kind of like showing off the cleavage. And for the people on YouTube, Larry draws these things traditionally. So this is like this is actual pencil, and he inks it, and this is the actual original. Like he sends them to me. So
that's awesome.
Beautiful work. He works under a magnifying glass. He's got videos. He uses a magnifying glass to get the detail, because it's crazy how detailed he gets on all his faces. And like my wife loves this cover, so she wants to frame it, so we put it in our room. And then the next cover. Because if you look at the standard cover for book 4, it's like a bar brawl. It's all the guys, and they're just scrapping, and they're all over each other. And it's all guys. Well, there's one girl on that cover. She's just a character that gets introduced in that book. But it's mostly all guys, and they're everywhere. There's so many of them. So I was like, what if for the other sexy cover, for the other obligatory Sexpot edition, we do a sexy version? And again, for YouTube viewers, you can see this amazing piece of art. Like, if you can't see this, then go to the Kickstarter and check it out. But look, the detail on this is crazy. It's all pencil work, all penned by hand. It's amazing. So it was like, what if all the girls are in that bar are having a bar fight? Because all the guys are on this cover, all the girls are on that cover. So we did a sexy version. I told them the same thing. I was like, no nudity, but they can be ripping off each other's clothes, and you can see their lingerie underneath or whatever. And if you want to get creative and have some nudity, then just have it covered by something. Because again, I don't mind nudity. I don't mind any. I'm not offended by nothing. Offends me.
Mm-hmm.
But nudity is just not the so-called. It doesn't fit into this thing.
It has its place.
It has its place, and this isn't it. Even when my wife suggested doing these sexy covers, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this fit. So then I was like, oh, if I put that badge on it, that obligatory, because when we say obligatory Sexpot edition, there's actually a badge on it for people that haven't looked at it. It says obligatory Sexpot edition. Because I want to be very obvious, tell people right up front, we are doing this because you need to do it. And that kind of plays in with the humor of the book, which fits in with the book, because the book doesn't take itself, like the characters, like Jack doesn't take himself too seriously. So the covers aren't going to either. So that was the deal, and I really like these covers. They're so good.
Yeah, and you probably didn't notice, but viewers noticed my head going back and forth, because I've got you over on this monitor, I've got the covers over on this monitor, and what amazed me about those covers is, like you said, it's all line work. Because a lot of times I've seen behind the scenes artwork with comic creators, and colorists do a lot of work, everybody. And seeing the line work in that, like he does amazing work. So they are great covers. There's something about your elite covers though, the simplicity. I know they're very like detailed and nice covers, and both of them are really great, but they're also simple.
Yeah,
and that it's like one static color with an image popping out of it. that I really enjoy too. Like the covers in this Kickstarter are very good.
Yeah, and that's probably why like the all in is selling almost as well as the standard. Like
Wow.
there's quite a bit there, so which is really good. And yeah, I was kind of also I thought the three color idea would go well with John's like yellow cover. So like we have the yellow cover and the pink cover. It's pretty much what it is. And I tried to, if I need to, I adjust the logos because I designed the So-Called Living logo. And so for John's, I made it kind of like a photocopy. It's like a bad photocopy. That's
Hmm.
the logo because originally he sent it to me with the regular basic red logo. And I was like, that doesn't match. It was like, so it was like, and I was telling him, it was like, the problem's not you. Like, don't change your background color. Like, leave your art. Your art's perfect. I'll fix the logo. So I was like, I think this will match. I wanted something that looks flatter, that kind of fell into the background, and that complemented his work and his kind of loose line. So I was like, I'll do like a bad photocopy look. So I kind of give it a bad photocopy treatment.
Yeah, I love the way you're adapting the logo for each cover. Like
Yeah, even
it's those
the
little details that like most people don't pick up on, but it's essential to how the cover looks.
And there's one thing I got to change still is on the Sexpot edition where she's coming out of the pool. I made it like purple because when the guys colored it, first of all, they gave me two different versions. They gave me one that had a lot of purple on it, and I was talked back. I went back to them and I was like, it's a little too disco. There's too much purple. And they
Hmm.
came back and they flattened it out, and I was like, okay, that's now there's like no life to it. So what I did, I took both versions and I like faded out the so it was like the plain Jane colors on the top and then the purple toward the bottom, so it's in front of her. And then I was like, okay, I like that better. So I told them, I was like, okay, this is what I did with, I took both your pieces and I kind of merged them together. And then I changed the color of the logo to be that kind of purple. So it's almost like it's emitting a light. So then I put a purple glow around the zombie girl. So it looks like she's being backlit by it a bit. And then I put the logo reflected in the water. Now, I put the logo, it's hard to see, but the logo is actually reflected in the water. So that purple in the water is actually the logo being reflected in there. Although the reflection is incorrect because it's right side up. It should be upside down.
Hmm.
Now, originally when I did it that way so it could be legible, but I was like, it's kind of bothering me. So I think I'm going to go back and flip it, which is fine because I did it myself, so I can easily go back and flip the logo so the reflection's flipped.
Yeah, you'll flip it because I think people. You're talking about in the water,
Yeah, in the
the
water,
reflection.
because it should be mirrored, right? But it's
Yeah,
not.
because
It's,
somebody's gonna see that and be like, and it's gonna bug them, just like it's
yeah,
bugging you. Like
yeah, it is. So I
it's
am
gonna
gonna
make more sense when it's flipped.
and it won't be like shouldn't be difficult because the way I set up my files, I always try to set up files so I can go easily back and manipulate them into. So I use so many like just masks and layers on layers. So I can change things and easily adapt because I'm always trying different things. So, but yeah, that's what's on my to-do list. Fix the logo in the water. So
Yeah,
what's on the Kickstarter page? It's still going to look the same. Just the logo's going to face the right direction. That's it. So
kind of like how behind the scenes, everybody. Prior to recording, you fixed one of the buttons on here.
yeah, that's right. So up until now, there's like a little review video there, and nobody knew it was a review video because they thought it was just a random photo. So it's actually the first frame of the video or something, or one of the frames, not the first frame, it's
Hmm.
one of the frames of the video. So I just put the YouTube play button on there and done. Now it looks
Yeah,
like
I got to witness that in real time, everybody. But Mark, you've been very generous with your time, and it's been great talking to you, man. Real quick before we take off, social media, website, where can people follow you further?
well, you can. There's two things. There's so-called living everywhere. Just look up so-called living. If you type in so-called living on like Instagram or Twitter, YouTube, and I'm not there, then I'm not there. Like that's so it's easy and everywhere. And also Board Game Coffee.
Hmm.
So I'm on YouTube for Board Game Coffee and Instagram and on X and Threads, but I don't really use those. So I'm mostly on YouTube and Instagram. And for so-called living, it's mostly Instagram. Again, you can find those Facebook pages as well, but I'm mostly on Instagram for if you want to reach out, want to chat. Instagram is the best way to go. And yeah. Oh, and one thing I wanted to mention is if you missed the first Kickstarter, there are some catch-up packages where you can get books 1 through 4 in whichever covers you want. Like there, you can get all the standard, or all the elites, or all the Sexpots. So that's also an option.
Yeah, and if you didn't do the first Kickstarter, definitely do that because I really enjoyed those first two issues, and
Thank you.
like I think I told you back then, like I'm a big fan of zombies, vampires, all that stuff, and it was definitely. It's always fun to take that thing you're a fan of and play with it and twist it in ways that feel new and unique. And I think he did that successfully with the first 2 issues. So to everybody out there watching, listening, remember to check those show notes. I'll have links, Mark's social media handles, all that down in the show notes below. Most importantly, the link to the Kickstarter, so y'all can check out the campaign and hopefully back it, because it's definitely worth your money. So Mark, thanks so much, man, for stopping by again, and best of luck with the rest of the campaign.